Welcome to our election focus. With so many races and so many candidates jockeying for position in the upcoming primary, we weren't able to get the in-depth conversation that we had during the Annapolis city election. So this time, we're shaking it up a little bit. We identified key challenged races and invited all of the candidates to pitch us. In each 10-minute recording, we present a single question to the candidate. I am a new voter. Why should I vote for you? And after that, the candidate has up to 10 minutes to pitch themselves, and if they run out of time, we hang up on them. It's very simple and mildly therapeutic. Joining us now is Lisa Brannigan Rodvien. She is a Democrat running for the Anne Arundel County Council seat in District 6. Hey, I'm a new voter here in Anne Arundel County, and I'm not sure who I need to vote for or who I want to vote for, so why would I want to vote for you?
Well, let me start out by saying welcome to Anne Arundel County. Let me introduce myself. My name is Lisa Rodvien, and my full name is Lisa Brannigan Rodvien for folks that knew me before I got married. Let me tell you a little bit about my background and why it is that I'm running for this office. By the way, I'm running for District 6 of the Anne Arundel County Council, which includes the entire city of Annapolis. So yes, if you're in the city limits, you do get a vote on the county council. And it includes the Annapolis Peninsula, Bay Highlands, Arundel on the Bay, and Bay Ridge, and then all the way up to Crownsville. So the area between the two rivers on the Annapolis Peninsula is District 6. So a little bit about my background. I actually am a transplant. I grew up in St. Louis, Missouri, but I married someone in the U.S. Army. My husband is former Army, and when he separated from the Army, we knew that Anne Arundel County would have a lot of possible opportunities for him to work. And at the time we were leaving the military, I was a public school teacher and just needed to make sure I had the license credentials to work wherever we went. So I got licensed to work in Maryland, and here we are. But let me go back a little bit. I grew up in a suburb outside of St. Louis, Missouri, and public school issues were always at the forefront of my life and my childhood. I went to an excellent public school. And so I've always held that as a bar of what I think children deserve in terms of opportunities to, set the stage for their future. I went to college at Cornell University, and I really still had a lot of interests and was barely able to settle on a single major in time to graduate. So I just studied lots of different things. I studied sociology, foreign language, U.S. government, a little bit of history, Asian history. But I ended up graduating with a major in music, which had been a long interest of mine. But very shortly after I graduated, I decided that what was really calling me was some sort of civil rights interest. And so I decided to pursue that by going to law school. I came to law school in Washington, D.C. at Catholic University, and my campaign team always wants me to mention that I had a full scholarship at Catholic, and I graduated magna cum laude. I went on and clerked in Washington, D.C. for a judge for a year, for a one-year term clerkship in the criminal division, and that was really very formative and informing in terms of the direction I wanted to go in my career, because I worked in the criminal felony division, and most of the people appearing before our court were very young. They were almost all male. Many were African American, but one of the common themes was we saw people in their young 20s just starting out on their adult lives. And once we sort of got through the nitty-gritty of, the details of their case, we would learn more about their own personal background. And almost 100% of the defendants in our courtroom had really tragic stories behind what led them to be in our courtroom, which dealt with drug cases and felony drug cases and felony gun cases. That took me further into my interest in education and how education could have maybe pulled some of these young people, mainly young men, in a different direction. So I worked in education law for a little while, but realized that it was still a little dry for what my heart was calling me to do. And I ended up going back to school again to become a teacher and earned a master's in multicultural, multilingual education, which is a great, entryway into the education field in 2018 when our schools are more and more diverse. But it was specifically also preparation to be an ESOL teacher. So by that time, I had met my husband, and we were living in Hawaii. He was stationed in Hawaii, and so I started my teaching career in Hawaii public schools. We'd moved away from Washington, D.C., where we met. And that was really eye-opening. When you look at a list of how the states are ranked in terms of their education systems, Hawaii is usually ranked in the bottom 5. And when we left Hawaii, we had decided to come to Maryland, which is, had been at the very top of the list. And so I was really excited to move to a system that was hopefully going to have so much more offerings for students, so much more support for teachers. And one of the frustrating things that I quickly learned was it actually wasn't as dramatic a difference as I expected. And since in the time that I've been in Anne Arundel County Public Schools, I've actually seen our school system sort of decreasing in investment in terms of what we're providing for students at the school level. Classes have gotten larger, schools are getting crowded, teachers are taking on more and more workload. The pay for teachers is not keeping up in the county. So I've seen a lot of good colleagues in Anne Arundel County leave for neighboring counties.
5 minutes.
And so I really want to help bring my voice and my experience in public education to help reverse the trend, because I think if we continue on the path that we've been on, we're going to be in really tough shape. And so we've got to start taking measures to turn the ship, to right the ship to a stronger direction for our kids. With respect to that, one of the reasons that I've seen the burden grow in the public schools is our very free approach towards development. On the county council, I hope to be a voice for smart development, slow development, much more measured approach than we've taken under the leadership of Steve Hsu. I think, he's had the idea of growth, without really addressing the impact that that's had on our communities in terms of infrastructure, in terms of traffic, and in terms of public schools. Along with all that, I think we're having a pretty dramatic effect on our environment. And for many people that are from here, for many people that come here, for visitors, that is the most special thing about Anne Arundel County is we're these beautiful communities on the Chesapeake Bay and the rivers that flow into the bay and streams and creeks. And if we are allowing development to chip away at this beautiful natural resource and interfere with, the habitat of our wildlife here, we're almost shooting ourselves in the foot. We're hurting one of our most valuable resources. So I want to do everything I can to be a force to slow down development, be much wiser about it, to be a voice for protecting the Chesapeake Bay and all of our waterways, because I think that is critical to our economy and our quality of life. Some of the other things that I want to work on, so those are my top two, the top two things I want to work on improving our public schools and protecting the Chesapeake Bay watershed. I think it's really important that we take the addiction crisis that's going on in our county head on. I think one of the things that's been left out of the conversation is the importance and the real need for increased mental health. At the school level, we have school counselors and psychologists who are handling ever larger caseloads of students with mental health needs. We have more students coming in with greater challenges. We have a greater number of students receiving free and reduced meals. It's grown about 10% in the last decade. So we have a population of young people that really needs more services, and I think that goes for adults too. At the state level, mental health services have been something that's on the decline for several decades, and I think that if we can restore some of those mental health services, then we can actually make a dent in the addiction crisis as well. We obviously also need treatment facilities, and I'm glad to see that there's been some positive movement in that direction as well.
1 minute.
Finally, I would just like to say that something that's really important to me for the city of Annapolis and really the whole county is to increase transportation alternatives besides cars. I feel like we need to, especially in Annapolis, we're a small enough community where we should be able to allow people to walk everywhere. We should have sidewalks and bike paths everywhere just to make our communities less car dependent. And so that's a really important goal for me, working on supporting our first responders and other county employees. Again, I'll just wrap up. My name is Lisa Rodvien, and I'm running for County Council District 6, and that includes the entire Annapolis Peninsula and
15.
The city of Annapolis all the way up to Crownsville. And I thank you very much for taking the time to hear me out.
For more information on Lisa Brannigan Rodvien, please visit lisarodvien.com. That's LISARODVIEN.com.